We are going to continue our 2019 NHL Top Prospect Review Series, and today we're taking a look at the top 5 prospects for the Los Angeles Kings, and that's coming up next. So welcome back to the 2019 NHL Prospect Review Series. Today we're talking about the Los Angeles Kings top 5 NHL prospects. And the LA Kings, even though they might not be a real strong team in the NHL today, they're certainly going through a bit of a rebuild, going through some tough times, but the future does look very, very bright. The Los Angeles Kings, in my opinion, have one of the deepest and strongest prospect pools around the NHL. I certainly think it's fair to say they would definitely be in the top 5 for sure. Keep in mind, as well as we talk about each prospect, there will be a slide on the screen showing you some details of the player, including some biographical and statistical information. All that information comes to you courtesy of EliteProspects.com. Perfect resource for many great hockey-related statistics. I highly recommend you check it out if you're not already familiar. Now, without further ado, let's jump in and take a look at the top 5 prospects for the LA Kings. Now you'll notice here in the LA Kings top prospects that it is very forward heavy. Kael Clegg is going to be the first prospect we discussed today. Defenseman who was drafted in the second round, number 51 overall in the 2016 NHL Draft. And he's going to be the only defenseman on our list today. Although at the end of the video, you want to stay tuned and watch all the way through because there's definitely many honorable mentions, I guess you could say, that we're going to discuss at the end of the video as well, just to show how deep and how good this prospect pool really is. Clegg had a so-so first pro season last year in the American Hockey League, playing for the Ontario Reign. He put up 29 points in 52 games played, not seeing a ton of ice time and certainly facing some bumps on the road as he get adjusted to playing defense at the pro level. He's a very good skater, and when he's on, he can move the puck very well. After dominating junior with the way he skates, he really should turn out to be a pretty solid NHL defenseman. For example, his last year of junior, he ended up putting up 71 points in 56 games played, so he's a very solid offensively gifted defenseman, but like most guys coming up through the pro level, certainly do need to focus more on his defensive side of the puck, but overall, like I said, he could be a puck-moving defenseman with a lot of upside on the offensive side of the game. Now, even though it's been a few years since Kael Clague's been drafted, I do feel he needs some more seasoning before he can be a regular and essential part of the Kings' defensive core. However, I do see him getting more NHL opportunity this year. Obviously, last year, like I said, it was his first pro year, get his feet wet in the American League. Certainly had some bumps along the road, but overall wasn't too bad. I can see him getting a bigger role with their AHL team this year, maybe with some limited NHL action as well at some point in the year, maybe halfway through or later in the season, and I can see him maybe making the jump to the NHL next year if his development continues to go well throughout this coming season. Now, next up here, we have Arthur Kaliyev, who's a right winger drafted just in the 2019 NHL Draft, who really could be a steal in the second round, number 33 overall. Kaliyev is one of those players that ended up falling a fair bit. Many people, myself included, had him going in the first round. He's got a lot of offensive talent, but there certainly, obviously, were a few things here that many NHL GMs kind of shied away from and were a little bit reluctant to take him. But obviously, Rob Blake and the LA Kings saw enough things that they liked that they decided to take the chance here on Arthur Kaliyev. Now, he lit up the OHL last year as one of the few modern-day OHL players to score 50 goals as a 17-year-old. He put up 50 goals and 50 assists for over 100 points last year. Playing for a team in Hamilton that went through a lot of transition. He certainly went through a lot of different line mates and teammates throughout the year, and the fact that he was able to remain productive regardless of who he played with was certainly very impressive here, in my opinion. He was one of the best pure goal scorers in the Canadian Junior Hockey Leagues last year, and said often had more than 10 shot attempts per game. He's also a pretty solid playmaker who can make some pretty high-end plays. Due to his shot and his vision, he's an absolute weapon on the power play as well. He can be the type of forward who can really dominate the power play, and hopefully that can translate for him here at the NHL level, because that will be a huge asset for him. Even though Kaliyev is an extremely skilled player, he's not the type of player you're going to see do like big end-to-end highlight reel rushes or anything like that. His skating is not elite. It is average at best. And it's probably the main criticism of his game between his skating and his pace and compete level. There are times when he does get criticized for not working hard enough, and hopefully that'll come after getting acclimated to being in the pros or being around the guys at the LA Kings training camp. That's certainly going to be a big wake-up call for him, especially this fall as he attends his first NHL training camp. The other criticism with Kaliyev as well is sometimes he has long stretches of inconsistency, and I do think that at times that does become a little bit of an effort level, but I also think at times as well he was playing on a team that he knew wasn't going to have a ton of success, and maybe at times as well it wasn't challenging enough for him. So as he gets ready to take the next step in his NHL career, that's going to be a way more challenging for him, but he will have to keep up that work ethic and work really hard to make sure he's successful at the NHL. And I think those are the reasons why many of the NHL GMs kind of shied away from him, but I do think he could turn out to be pretty much a draft steal if he can work hard enough and make that jump to the pro level and let his skill level take over. Now, next up, we have 2017 second-round selection Jaret Anderson Dolan, who's been playing in Spokane in the Western Hockey League. Now, during his draft year in 17-18, he had a 91-point season in the WHL. Followed that up last year with a little bit of a unique season where he played some in the NHL, but also had some injuries and was limited to 43 points in 32 games played in the Western Hockey League. Also represented Canada at the World Juniors, had a pretty solid tournament as well. Like I said, he did make the Kings briefly at a training camp before going back to junior, but did have a fairly productive time while he was there. Now, he's very quick and very competitive forward who plays the game with a lot of pace. He has a really good skill level and excellent vision. He's got a hard, accurate shot, but there are some concerns that even though he's had some great offensive numbers in junior, that may not translate, at least not to that level at the NHL. But I still think regardless of how much offense he's able to generate at the pro level, I do see him being a very useful forward. He's a guy who you can rely on in all situations. He works really hard. He could play the PK. I could see him being a complementary piece on a power play. I really think Jaret Anderson Dolan is really a sure bet to be an NHL player. It's just really hard to say just how high end of a player he's going to be, but even he only ends up being a middle six type of forward with all the versatility that he provides to the team and leadership qualities that he brings. I think he'll be a great addition to the Kings for many years to come. Now, next up, we have a center iceman from Finland, Rasmus Kupari, who was a 2018 first-round selection, taken number 20 overall. Last year was a big jump for him in point totals. He played in Liga, putting up 33 points in 43 games played, which was a big jump for him compared to the year before from where he played here in the same league. He's got decent size at 6'1". He's got high-end speed and very high-end puck skills, and almost every time he's on the ice, something exciting happens. There are certainly times when Kupari can be a game breaker with his speed and his hands, making plays through defenders at full speed. Like I said, he's got pretty good size, but he needs to learn how to play better off the puck. Sometimes he tries to force plays and then therefore creates turnovers. He needs to try to cut down on some of those mistakes, and that'll come with more experience and more maturity. He's certainly a prospect who has all the tools, but will need to be molded by coaching and the development staff. He played well versus men this season and showed that he actually might be very close to be able to make the jump to the NHL. Next up, the top prospect, in my opinion, for the Los Angeles Kings is their most recent first-round pick, number 5 overall in the 2019 NHL Draft from the United States National Team Development Program, Aleksi Turcot. Of course, is a second-generation player, the son of former NHLer Aleksi Turcot. He did have a tough season this past year, missing time due to injury, and he also had mono late in the year as well. But when he was healthy, he was an awesome, dominant center in the USHL. He's a well-rounded prospect without really any clear weaknesses in his game, and he has a lot of high-end characteristics. He's got a fantastic first step and a great overall pace to his game. He combines that pace with very good hands and vision, showing how versatile of a threat he can be. He can make creative plays off the flank and see his options very well. It's not just his speed and skill that stand out, but also his compete level is elite as well. Turcot's the kind of forward who can dangle around a defenseman, blow by them, or drive his way right through the net. He gets to the net consistently and without fear. He battles for pucks hard as anyone and typically wins his battles. Aleksi Turcot likely did get overshadowed a bit this past year because of Jack Hughes and the National Team Development Program in the United States. Obviously, that program put out a lot of fantastic players. Given how many strong players that program put out this year, Turcot very well might have gotten a little bit more attention had he remained healthy all year. I don't think he would have been able to give Hughes or Kakko a run for the number 1 or number 2 spots, but there were many times throughout the year when many people, myself included, thought he could go as high as number 3 in the draft. It is a little bit surprising that he was actually available for the Kings to take at number 5. So those are your top 5 prospects for the LA Kings. Now, as I mentioned, they have a wide variety of players who we can kind of include here as honorable mentions, so I do think all have excellent shots of becoming NHL players as well. They have guys like Samuel Fagemo, they have Mikey Anderson, big center Akil Thomas from Niagara in the Ontario Hockey League. They have Carl Grundstrom, the left winger who they acquired from the Maple Leafs in that trade for Jake Muzzin. The other piece of that trade, of course, was offensive defenseman Sean Dursey, who looks to be pretty solid as well. They also have Daniel Brickley as well, another defenseman who they signed as a college free agent, who spent most of the year last year in the American Hockey League, and hopefully is progressing well enough to get a shot at the NHL here soon as well. And of course, we can't forget Gabe Vilardi, who not that long ago was a first round selection, but kind of got lost in the shuffle given all the health issues he's had and all the problems he's had with some back issues. He missed all of last season and is certainly way behind on his development. When he was first drafted, many people, myself included, kind of thought he very well would be a regular in their lineup right now and maybe being as high as a number 2, number 3 center with the potential to be a number 1 center in the future. That potential is certainly in doubt because of all the health issues, but we can say with updates here from Rob Blake not that long ago that Vilardi was doing as best as he has over in the last 12 months. He won't be participating in training camp this year, but he will be attending camp. He will be able to be there but not take part in on-ice drills or activities, but they are optimistic that he will be able to play this year in some capacity. They don't know exactly when that's going to start, but either way, they seem to be confident that he'll be able to get over his back issues and remain healthy moving forward. If they can get him going and actually get him to play regular games and come anywhere close to what he was projected to be when he was drafted, that would be a huge plus. But the fact that you have a guy like Gabe Vilardi, who right now can't even crack the top 5 list for the top prospects because of all the health issues and setbacks he's had over the last year or two, that just goes to show you just how deep this prospect pool is. Now, as I mentioned in the opener, this team might be going through some tough times right now, but they obviously have a lot of bright spots here for the future. And I really think the LA Kings have a lot to be optimistic about over the next few years as these guys graduate to become NHL players. So, of course, as always, I want to know your thoughts and opinions on the top prospects for the Los Angeles Kings. Let me know which ones you think are going to have the most impact on this franchise for the long term. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.